Governor Daniels today announced this EPA mess that we've got to deal with. Why don't you tell a little bit people what's going on with the EPA?
Well, what Governor Daniels said was that all 92 counties in Indiana have all reached our EPA attainment. So in other words, the ozone, the so-called smog, is all within limits. And it's something we've worked on over the years, and I think rightly so. We've been proud of the fact that we've cleaned up our air. Now, this new, what's called a non-attainment, came from a monitor north of Chicago, but since Lake and Porter County are part of the Chicagoland region, we now would get saddled with all the additional costs, all the really problems that it causes business. People may have to come in and have their cars checked. So whatever EPA would require, we would have to do, even though we're in compliance and Chicago's not.
Now that goes into effect with the currently with the emissions in the state of Indiana. Lake County and Porter County residents are the only ones required to have emissions if your license is.
That's right.
Like go to the license branch out there for odds and even years or stuff like that. I'd hopefully that's something that will be really great because I hate thinking about when you realize you go,
Yeah.
Wait, do I got to get my what year is it? My car's a 97. Do I do that? So that's something really important. Now, why should John Q. Public care about this?
Well, really, I think the governor pointed out that it has huge economic impacts. If you're trying to expand a business or bring one into the region, they would have to then file all the new permitting requirements as a non-attaining county. Well, again, the governor has done a lot trying to encourage business development, so it really impacts the ability to grow jobs in this region. I've talked to a number of the mayors who may well join us in this lawsuit. So I think you can see from the people that are trying their best to develop jobs and a healthy economy, this is the last thing we need is to have to do additional things for EPA when they can't say that we're not in compliance. It's someone else across the border.
We've seen with Illinois, I believe Durbin came out a few years ago. BP was getting the Canadian crude that was going to come in. They stopped they were able to force BP to redo because they were complaining about some kind of water thing. Yet we look at all the businesses that dump into Lake Michigan via Illinois. Once again, Rahm Emanuel, City of Chicago mayor, the governor of Illinois, they're actually happy, it sounds like, that they're going to be called an unattainment place because they're going to get millions of dollars from the federal government?
Well, I think they realize that they're not in compliance. So when they see a non-attainment, the best spin they can put on it is to say that there will be additional federal funds. What it really does, though, is by including Lake and Porter, we would have a tremendous advantage to bring business in and grow additional businesses in these counties unless we're lumped in as a non-attaining area. So they're happy to get more money. We're not. We want to grow businesses. We want to have a stronger, let's say, a recipient of new business growth. So this would be a huge advantage, and the fact that we're included puts us on an equal footing because we now have to comply with the problems that Chicago has caused that they're going to have to comply with.
I heard a commercial just a few minutes ago. The U.S. Steel, there's the EPA praised the work that the steel mills are doing by becoming healthier or reducing the amount of emissions and stuff like that. So on one hand, they're saying that your guys are doing a great job, but because of the lumping in, and you said it's arbitrarily just a circle drawn for?
Well, that's one of our challenges is how do they draw that circle? I mean, everyone knows that the prevailing winds are going to bring air into Chicago from the west. So the fact that we're to the east of Chicago and we're part of their attainment area really makes no sense. So again, we challenge them in Washington, asking the court to stay any enforcement, and then we'll go back to EPA and ask that they reconsider this. There was literally just one monitor really north of Chicago that showed a high ozone reading, and that's what's caused this whole thing. So we've worked with EPA, we've tried to discuss it with them. Now we're going to have to go through the administrative and the legal process to challenge it.
And today out there at Mayor, where were you located at today?
We were at the town hall.
Okay.
So they gave us I only use free government position facilities, so we don't want to pay for a place to have a press conference. But this is a very significant issue. I do think we'll have a lot of support from the local mayors. I talked to Mayor McDermott, Mayor Copeland, and Mayor, let's see, in Valparaiso, John Costas. So a number of them, I think, are going to be very interested in this. The last time we had this problem, they joined in the case. So we'll look for some support locally. But people ought to know that this is not something that we're fighting because our air is not clean. If it were something about health and welfare of the citizens of the region, we'd be all for it. But this is not. This is something that'll just cost business and cost jobs, and yet really not do anything for the betterment of the people here.
And now this was filed. Where do you go from here? I mean, it's just going to go into the federal government?
Well, I'll say it's a long, arduous process, but it starts in Washington. The D.C. Court of Appeals has authority to review EPA actions. So we're asking for what's called judicial review of their decision. The courts are going to require us to go through the administrative process, so they call it exhaustion of administrative remedy. That'll start here in Chicago, where we will have to file another petition seeking a review. There's a lot of science that goes into how did you design this? Does it make any sense? What are you really trying to accomplish by having us brought into this attainment area?
It's one of those frustrating things that it seems like a pretty black and white issue, but unfortunately they want to colorize it all and add all these different angles to it.
And again, clean air is everyone's business, and I think the hard work that Indiana and the communities up here have done to clean things up, and like you said, whether it's U.S. Steel or BP, everyone has done their part. And it's been very expensive to try to come into compliance. But if it were something that we could do to improve the quality of air in Northwest Indiana, we'd be all for it. But we're really being asked to be taxed to help somebody else.
And there we go. That's Attorney General Greg Zoeller. He's in town to announce that, sort of help it out for us citizens of Lake and Porter County. And now I assume people can. Is there any help that can with letters or anything like that? Would that help out? Or
there may be. When we go through the administrative process, they may have a public hearing. I don't know that that's necessary after the fact. Usually when you do a challenge, it's all the scientists that get in and argue over these emission standards. So, but I do think that it's always helpful to have public support of the local entities. So the mayors and the counties that are going to be impacted, I think that to know that it's important before we have to do these things, people ought to recognize it.